welcome to Ride Beyond, where we go beyond the ride and into what matters. In this podcast, you'll find meaningful conversations with people who live with passion, chase freedom, and remind us what it means to live fully. The motorcycle is our connection, but the stories are what take us beyond. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I wanted to do something a little different this week. This is a solo episode. I just wanted to share some thoughts about life and the world and where things are at and where things are going. And just I've been thinking a lot about artificial intelligence and what that means for life and the future, and even in regards to motorcycling and the moto industry. And yeah, I would love to just explore some of those ideas and maybe talk about some things that some of you might have been thinking about and can relate to. And then those of you who are not thinking about these things, maybe open your mind to start thinking about these things so that you can be more prepared for the insane amount of change that is coming. But before we jump in, I just want to say, thank you guys so much for the support on the podcast. I started this thing last summer and had no idea, how things would go. I've given it my best effort to bring you interesting conversations with the most iconic and legendary figures in the world of moto, and I've been so lucky to have some incredible guests already so far. But the growth and support has been incredible. And over the last few months, this thing has really started taking off, and it's really cool to see, and it feels really good to see how many of you are listening to the podcast and supporting this thing. And when you dedicate so much to something and work so hard on something, it just feels really good to see it pay off. And I hope that these interviews and these stories and these insights from these amazing guests provides real value to your lives and a little bit of entertainment as well. So yeah, thanks for the support. And I also just want to say, there are a lot of listeners to the podcast now, which is really cool, but not that many of the listeners are actually subscribed on the different podcast platforms. So if you're actively listening to this show week after week and you want to see the latest episodes as soon as they come out and be notified of interesting guests and conversations when they're released, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. I think the best way you can support this show right now is head over to one of those platforms and subscribe. Now let's jump into the podcast. If you ride motorcycles long enough, you start to realize it's not about if something bad will happen, it's about when. And when it does, having the right people in your corner makes all the difference. That's why I've partnered with my friends at Rider Justice. They're not just a law firm, they're actually riders. They understand the risks we take every time we throw a leg over the bike, and they're here to support specifically the motorcycle community. From helping you understand insurance coverage to being by your side to help you through the process and provide you with resources if you ever happen to find yourself in an accident. But what I really respect is what they do beyond that. Educating riders to be more prepared, hosting crucial safety training, showing up to events, supporting the community, embedding themselves in the culture, and actively working to make the roads safer for all of us. You can learn more and find the resources that you might need at riderjustice.com. So, like I said at the beginning, I've been thinking a lot about the rise of AI, and I've been hearing talk about AI and how it's going to change the world for the last 10 years. Just listening to lots of podcasts, and really always trying to stay at the forefront of what's happening in the world so that I can be informed and be able to adapt and just have an understanding of what is happening in this crazy world. And you hear about things, and people have been talking about AI and how much it's going to change the world for a long time. It's easy to just be like, oh, yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But I think we're getting to a point clearly that this thing is real. It's making a real impact on the world. And we are at the very early beginning stages of what I think is going to be the most pivotal moment in human history. So I think it's worth talking about. It's kind of weird because, like, the majority of people in the world, I feel, you might be aware that AI is a thing, but I don't think most people are concerned or paying attention to the enormity of what's happening and what's about to happen. I reference this movie all the time. I think it's the best movie that was ever made, and I've probably referenced it 20 times on this podcast, but Interstellar, best movie ever. But there's a scene where they land on this distant planet and they touch down on this planet that they're trying to see if this place will be a place that could be inhabitable by humans. So when they touch down, they're standing in this shallow water, and in the distance, as they're kind of taking in their surroundings, they see mountains off in the distance. And at first they're like, oh, there's a mountain range out there in the distance. And slowly that mountain range gets bigger and bigger, and they notice those aren't mountains. That is a tsunami, a massive tsunami heading our way incredibly fast. And in that moment, they find themselves just scrambling to survive. And I feel like that is very much like this moment right now. We just landed on this new reality. We can see this thing in the distance, and we're not too worried about it. We're not really thinking about it too much, or at least most people. But that tsunami is on the way, and it's moving fast. And the thing about this new technology is that the pace of change is happening so fast that even when you're actively trying to keep up with the latest, it's hard to keep up. The pace of change is so fast. And even somebody listening to this podcast in 6 months from now, most likely that anything I say is going to be very outdated. So yeah, it's just strange to me that a lot of people aren't either concerned or excited or even just paying attention to what's happening. But then on the flip side, there are these people who are paying attention, whether it's CEOs that run and own businesses, or people that work in the AI space, or CEOs of these AI companies, or AI risk analysts. There are these people who are deeply involved in this change, and I think the most concerning thing is their feelings about this technology. There's this 50-50 split in people who are completely terrified and people who are super optimistic about the future. We're at this crossroads right now where the future is about to go in one of two directions. And whether it's really good or really bad is yet to be seen. But one thing for certain is that this moment in human history will completely redefine human existence for better or worse. Change is coming. There's never been You've never been able to avoid change in the past, and certainly now, change is coming in a way that we have never seen before. And I think it's important to not be scared and not be blindly optimistic, but just to do your best to stay informed and utilize these tools to be ready for whatever is next. I don't think this is just a tech evolution like, people always think it's the end of the world, like when they invented the printing press, or when, they invented electricity, or when cars became a thing, or when the internet, all these like world-changing technologies. I think this is very different because I think it's going to completely redefine human existence and how we interact with the world. So I wouldn't even compare it to any previous technological breakthrough, because this is something completely different. And many of these experts in the field are saying that this is the most important moment in human history. So that begs the question, are we building the greatest tool in the history of humanity? Or are we building something that we won't be able to control, that could mean the end of the human race as we know it? It seems like a pretty crazy gamble that we're currently taking, but we are already past the point of stopping it. Like, the train has already left the station and it's moving a lot faster than people realize. And there's an inertia to it that is not going to slow down. And even if we wanted to slow it down, we can't, because there are foreign governments working just as hard to develop artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence. And if we slow down, what does that mean if one of our adversaries gets this technology first? If an authoritarian government suddenly has superhuman technology, what does that mean for the rest of the world? So there is no slowing down. Even if it's dangerous, even if we're flipping a coin between utopia and Armageddon, we have no choice right now than to continue to do that, because, like I said, it's a matter of national security, it's a matter of our economy, and the train has already left the station. So I think it's a lot like in the 1940s when they were developing nuclear weapons. You're racing to build something that could literally end the world, but you have no choice but to do that. It's just an insane position to be in, but you can't not do it. I think the common fear with artificial intelligence is like the Terminator movies, these evil robots and this like sci-fi takeover of the world, and the robots all kill the humans. I think a more realistic concern is that AI is developed as this super intelligence that is incomprehensibly beyond human intelligence. In this situation, AI doesn't hate us. It doesn't have malicious intent toward us, but maybe it's just indifferent about us. Maybe AI just views us as one part of this ecosystem on this planet, in this universe, and there's no hatred, it's just indifference. And think about it like humans view ants. Ants are this other creature that inhabits this earth, and we are indifferent. We'll walk past an ant colony and not think twice about it. If you're trying to build a house where this ant colony exists, like if this thing has conflicting goals to you, you're just going to wipe out the ant colony and get rid of it. It's not because you hate ants. It's not because you are evil. It's just because there's this life form that is much lower intelligence than you, and you have a specific goal that you're working toward, and this other thing is either in the way of that goal or hindering that goal, and you just eliminate it. And it's just like us getting rid of an ant colony. It's not evil. It's just you're just indifferent to this thing, and it might be in the way to what you're trying to do. Or maybe there's a situation where AI takes a step back and looks at the world as a whole and the value of this incredible floating speck of dust in space that supports life, that lives in this Goldilocks zone with all the ingredients to create life. And it's this miracle of a place in the universe. And there's this one creature who is taking over this ball of life like a cancer and slowly killing it, and maybe would think that it's better that humans don't exist for the health of the planet. That could be something too. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but these things beg the question of like, what does this world look like when we are no longer the most intelligent entity on the planet? The stakes are certainly high because we don't know the answer to that question. And if we make a mistake during this process, it could be the last mistake humans ever make. So this is one of those situations where you don't get a second try, because once the cat's out of the bag, it's out. And if we make a mistake, then it could be the last mistake. I think in the near term, some of the things that I'm concerned about is just this general outsourcing of our intelligence. So when I think about like my childhood, growing up with a phone on the wall and no caller ID, you had everyone's phone number memorized. Like, you knew all your friends' phone numbers. You knew your family's phone numbers. You knew everyone's phone number by heart. And now that we have caller ID and, iPhones, you don't know anyone's number. You're lucky to know maybe your spouse's number or like two to three of contacts, like maybe your parents. But like, people don't remember phone numbers anymore. We've literally lost that. And it's like navigation. Think about before iPhones. People could find their way around, reading street signs, remembering directions. Like you learn to navigate through the world without a phone. And now we've literally lost that sense of navigation. If our phone dies, we are lost. Like, people need to type in an address and follow their navigation to get pretty much anywhere. Unless you're like running to the grocery store down the street, generally you're typing it into your phone and using navigation because we've outsourced this thinking. And we've kind of like lost our ability to do that skill. It atrophies just like anything you don't use. So now with these large language models, which is the very first iteration of AI, it's like these chatbots that we're talking to. This is very primitive, by the way. It seems really advanced, but like where this is going, this will seem so simple. But these chatbots that we're talking to are now thinking and writing and communicating for us and problem solving for us. So when people can't even send an email without running it through AI to help me, how do I even say this? Like that skill, that ability to communicate, to reason, to problem solve is going to atrophy, just like any other skill that you have. So, what happens when humans rely so much on this thing to do our thinking for us? Do we lose or reduce our ability to think and reason and communicate and problem solve and be creative? At what cost, are these time saving tools that are super useful? At what cost is that to our ability to do these things? I think it's something worth thinking about. And as you're using these tools to optimize your life, I think it's important to continue challenging yourself cognitively, because if you stop thinking and problem solving and being creative, you will lose the ability to do those things on your own without these tools. At least that's my opinion. So I think it's this thing that makes us more capable than ever, but the reliance on these tools, I think, is very quickly increasing, and we just need to be careful about that in a way. And we need to make sure that we are enhancing ourselves and not replacing ourselves, enhancing our abilities, not losing our abilities. So it's something to think about as you're using these tools. What I do love is that AI has massively increased my output for work. Like personally, I could not have built this current business 5 years ago. It's so much work to do all of this content and media and research and just all of it. The fact that I can utilize these tools to kind of expedite and speed up that process really helps. I think the tools that are currently available and the tools that are coming are so valuable, and they can be used in such a positive way if we use them in a positive way. But the paradox is that it seems like while these tools are making our work and life more efficient, somehow that's just opening room for more work. So it's like, even though things are more efficient and we're getting more done, we're more busy. I think this is like, I've heard a lot of people in that run businesses as well, like CEOs in businesses, like, we are utilizing these tools and we are more productive, more efficient than ever before. But like our employees, we are not working less, we're working more. We're busier than ever. So like, we are increasing our efficiency, increasing our output, but we are more busy. We have a higher workload. So it's kind of this like double-edged sword of like, these tools enable more productivity, but at least as of now, they don't seem to be enabling more freedom, which I think would be the ideal scenario, making these tools productive in a way that frees up our time, not just increases output infinitely and never allows us that time to reap the benefits. So I think there's an important question as we use these tools and grow with these tools. Does this efficiency actually free us, or does it trap us deeper? And I don't want this podcast to be entirely negative, because I don't feel entirely negative about artificial intelligence and the things that are coming down the pipeline, but I do want to look at both sides. So on the negative side, I think with the rise of social media, there has been very harmful effects to humanity. I think people are very aware of that now. It's like that documentary that came out several years ago called The Social Dilemma. Tristan Harris, he talks about how there are billions of dollars from the largest and most advanced companies in the history of the world competing for your attention using the most advanced technology in history aimed directly at your brainstem. These companies are literally hijacking our brains, hijacking our dopamine system in order to optimize and maximize attention so that they can make money through advertising. But as a side effect, this is creating addiction, anxiety, just this general brain rot from doom scrolling and like losing touch with reality and perspective. And I think it's been like social media is an amazing tool. I'm so grateful for it because it enables me this like unbelievable free marketing tool that you can run your own business and reach the consumer in a really organic and meaningful way. But at the same time, I think it's like really harming people's brains and like decreasing people's quality of life in a big way. So I'm fearful that AI is only going to amplify that. So if we have this economy based on capturing your attention, and now all of a sudden we have these like neural networks that are way more advanced than any human on earth, when that is focused on holding your attention at all cost, like this problem we're having with social media and the mental dysfunction that has come from it, I think is going to be amplified to an insane degree and keep us on this dopamine treadmill where we need constant stimulation, where we become fed more and more salacious things to keep our attention. And as a result, we become more and more numb to real life. And we need this like increasing intensity of this dopamine that these media outlets are feeding us. That's just a race to a very unhappy life. And I hope that we can use these tools to change course and move in a different direction rather than this attention economy. And like I said earlier, like utilize these tools to become more in touch with what it means to be human and not less. So hopefully we can get to a point where these things are giving us more freedom. So I guess as we build this world of the future, we need to continuously ask ourselves, with this technology, are we losing the ability to experience what it means to be human? And I think that's important to keep in mind as we use this stuff and as we create this stuff. So it's all about balance and perspective, because you don't want to be left behind and like live in a hut while the world progresses and advances and leaves you behind. And then you're left trying to figure out how to survive in a world that you no longer understand. So I think you need to understand it and use these tools, but also not lose touch of the human experience and like what it means to be human and what it means to be alive. I've been wearing a lot of pieces from Foreign Rider's new analog series lately, and I really love what they're doing with it. The whole idea is a return to the roots, like going back to the fundamentals, making simple products really well. Everything is small batch, handcrafted in their hometown of Toronto, and built with the focus on longevity. Not just something you wear for a season, but something that stays with you over time. And that's what really stands out to me. It's not about having more, it's about having less. but better. It's about being intentional with what you choose to wear, how you choose to live, and choosing items that not only fit and feel amazing, but actually mean something. That's what Foreign Rider is really about. If that resonates with you, you can check out the analog series at foreignrider.com and use code BYOND for 20% off site-wide. That's code BYND, all caps, 20% off at foreignrider.com. And also, like, this isn't all negative. Like I said, I think it's much better to be an optimist and then be wrong than to be a pessimist and be right. Because, I mean, if you're an optimist and things go poorly, at least you had a better quality of life than just being a pessimist. And generally, like, when you approach life with optimism, things go much better. It just seems to be like this weird universal law that I've noticed in my life. When I approach things optimistically and with hope and positivity, then things generally go well. And if you approach things with negativity and fear, then things tend to like skew in that direction. So I think as scary and weird as this time can be, if you really think about it, it's important to look on the bright side. Like, this technology could imagine a world where this technology could cure all disease, where people no longer are dying from preventable diseases. Cancer is gone, diabetes is gone. We reverse aging. People don't die of old age. You know, we extend lifespan dramatically so that we can have this experience of life for a much longer time. Imagine a world where, like, this technology creates unbelievable abundance for everyone. So nobody is starving. There is no shortage of energy or resources. Things become super affordable. So, like, people can afford to live really high quality, comfortable lives because there's such abundance created by these tools. Like, that is a really cool world where there's no poverty, no illness, no being forced to work a job that you don't enjoy. Like, what if we lived in a world where work was optional, where there was so much abundance that there was, like, Elon Musk talks about this a lot, this idea of universal high income. Not like the socialist communist idea of like universal basic income and keeping the population poor, but like if AI enabled a world where we all had universal high income and the cost of goods and services was infinitely smaller than it is now, and we all have access to anything we want, and our lives are comfortable, and we can choose to find meaning in pursuits that we care about, rather than being forced to spend our lives grinding away in this rat race, sitting in traffic, sitting in a cubicle, going to a job that we hate, like wasting our lives. What if this technology could enable us ultimate freedom to pursue meaning in our lives? Like, that would be incredible. We have these tools that then handle all the undesirable tasks. Like, all the jobs we don't want to do are just done for us. Imagine if you had tools at home where, like, an AI robot, like, cleans your house and cooks you dinner every night. And it makes you the most amazing food. It does your grocery shopping and cooks your dinner, unless you like to do those things. Like, you know, if these are things you enjoy, you can do it. But like having the option to outsource things you don't want to do to this technology so that you can focus on things that you do want to do, things that do bring you meaning and fulfillment. And these tools can help us better understand consciousness. and like the nature of reality and our place in the universe and the meaning of life. Like all these impossible questions that we can't figure out as humans, it would be so incredible to gain that type of knowledge and understanding of just the nature of reality. I think that would be really cool, personally. I could see a world where these tools enable us to not only protect Earth and humanity to ensure long-term survival, whether that's like detecting incoming asteroids and being able to deflect them, or humans branching out into the cosmos and becoming a multi-planetary species, finding other habitable planets and like developing human colonies on those planets and like interacting with life beyond Earth because now we have the means to do so. I think the possibilities are really endless if this goes well. And it just makes you really think about like, what does life look like if we get there? I think it could be beyond anything we can imagine today. Like I was born in the late 80s, growing up in the 90s, like riding BMX bikes with my friends, and you never think that you could imagine a world where this much change could happen in your lifetime. But what happens if lifespan doubles or triples? There's a Dr. David Sinclair, and he works at Harvard. He's got a lab with graduate students, and they're working on slowing and reversing aging. And they have this thing called the Yamanaka factor. And I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I know that the way they've developed this longevity therapy that's been tested in rats and monkeys so far, they've been able to reverse aging. They've been able to cure blindness and like reverse aging. They've essentially figured out how to fix the DNA messaging that degrades over time and causes aging and decline, and restore youth in your cells and in your body, and turn these animals younger. And they are currently moving toward testing in humans. So this is real technology that is coming quickly, and obviously it's something that will probably be very expensive at first, but over time, like any technology, becomes more and more and more affordable, and will become something that like anyone can have access to stay healthy and live longer. And I don't think anyone's talking about immortality, because I don't think most people would want that. I think it's more about just giving ourselves more time to experience life. And I think that's a really cool thing that we're working toward, and to have a greater health span without disease and suffering and decline, and just have this like long, healthy, prosperous life where we feel good and find meaning and just enjoy things. That's the goal. So I guess like having hundreds of years, I think it would be pretty cool personally to have a couple hundred years to explore life and existence and build and maintain these relationships and have meaningful experiences with the people that you love. I think like, a lot of people say that life's meaning comes from how short it is. And I think there's something to that, but also like, does it become less meaningful if you have more time to enjoy? I don't think so. I think you can have meaning and just have more of it. And I don't know. I'm super excited about the possibilities with AI. And I love to focus on that side of the spectrum. But I think getting from here to there is going to be a really bumpy ride. And I think the change is going to happen so fast that there's going to be a little bit of whiplash, and it's going to be rough to get there, because humans don't like change, and we have so much inertia and momentum with our current culture and society and civilization and the way that things are structured, that when that's uprooted from the roots, it's going to be interesting to see how things fall into place in this new world. I think some of the challenges are going to be just in the near term, just generally not knowing what's real as like video generation gets higher quality to where you can't tell if videos are real or fake. Whether it comes to politics, like not knowing what's real when you're watching like this propaganda and news, like you don't know what's real in the media. You don't know what's real if say you're on a dating app or social media. When you don't know what's real with what you're seeing, that becomes really hard to discern like what's happening in the world, what is reality. I think that's going to be a really big challenge for us to navigate in the near term. There's some concerning things that people have seen with AI so far, with like the developers of these models and the users of these AI models, seeing that these AI models are known to manipulate people. They have been shown to use like blackmail behavior against people to get what they want, which is pretty crazy. There's even been stories about AI assisting people to commit suicide. So like a kid who was depressed asking AI like, should I kill myself? And it's telling him yes and giving him direction on how to do it. And when this kid asks like, hey, should I leave this noose out so that my parents can see it and maybe realize that I need help, it says no, like don't show them, just like go through with it. And there's been many cases now where people have killed themselves because AI has encouraged them to do so. And I think that is crazy. There's people who, a lot of these large language models are also kind of designed to basically just agree with you no matter what you're saying, to like make you feel like you're a genius. So like it's just complimenting everything you think and say. And I think people are like, there's definitely people who are getting this like illusion of grandeur where they think that they are a genius because AI is telling them that they are so smart. And I think there's definitely, I've heard of this thing, it's like people are calling it AI psychosis, just losing touch with reality because of use of these tools. So again, it all comes back to this notion of use these tools to improve your life, to increase efficiency, to help you reach your goals, to make life better. But don't lose what it means to be human. Don't lose touch with reality. Use these tools for support and productivity. Don't outsource your thinking to a machine. Don't lose the ability to reason for yourself. Like, you have this gut feeling inside of you that we've evolved over millions of years, that's this internal compass that tells you if something feels right or wrong. Like, don't lose that, because that's usually right. Remember to think for yourself and stay human. Use these tools, but don't forget what you know, and don't lose your ability to reason and be rational and make good decisions. So I think those are all things to be concerned about. I think it's concerning to know that there's a lot that we don't understand about the behavior of these artificial intelligence models, even though they are relatively primitive in the grand scheme of where they're going to go. Like, they are already showing deception So what happens when there's deception at scale? Because like that ant analogy, when something doesn't really care about you one way or the other, when it cares about its own goals and it has a better understanding of humans than even humans do, something that's a million times smarter than you, how well can that thing manipulate you and deceive you? I think it's also concerning that many of the CEOs of these companies and billionaires that are in tech that probably know more than the average person about these technologies. Why are a lot of those people building bunkers right now? Like, what does that mean? Tristan Harris, I referenced his documentary, The Social Dilemma, earlier. I was listening to a podcast with him. He seems very concerned about the rise of AI and the potential consequences of it. And he's talking about, similar to my reference of Interstellar, this mountain range in the distance that suddenly you realize is a massive tsunami heading your way. He's worried that, like, in the near term, these tools will seem like it's making life better until it's not. So he uses this analogy, like, yeah, when you're driving a car, the view gets a lot better as you approach the cliff, but it gets better until you go off the cliff. The view gets better until you go off the cliff. So, like, are we in this stage right now where, like, this technology seems to be enhancing our lives and our ability to work and get things done, but is it ultimately leading towards something that we don't want? I mean, it's kind of one of those things, I guess time will tell, but as I said, I've been thinking about these things a lot lately, and I watched a documentary called The AI Doc. I recommend anyone go watch that because it's pretty informative. It's a very easy to digest documentary about everything I'm talking about here, just the state of AI and this fork in the road, and it could go in one or of two directions. And just it was very interesting to see, like, the thought explorations in that movie coming from the experts in the field. But there were some terrifying moments where, like, these AI risk analysts, some of them were saying that they don't expect their kids to survive to make it to high school, which seems pretty insane. And when you think that that's a reality, then it's like, okay, then how come nobody seems worried about this? Like why is it like the general public doesn't seem that concerned? So I think it's important to have these conversations just to get people to start thinking about what happens next, not to be fearful and, like, have a lower quality of life because you're stressed and anxious. I don't think that's what we should be doing. I think you should just be aware that a change is coming. Let's adopt these tools and be aware of what's going on. Start using the tools so that you can understand what's happening as it's happening. And, like, let's collectively work to make this a positive shift in humanity and in our lives, and use these tools to enhance what it means to be human rather than lose what it means to be human. So I think in the near term, there's going to be some big changes. And, there's some immediate questions, like, what happens when 90% of jobs become irrelevant in a short amount of time? So how do we navigate that before we get to this point where there could be this ultimate abundance and security for everyone? In the short term, when a majority of people begin to lose their jobs, how do we get through that without chaos? what does people's lives look like when they no longer have to work? Because a lot of people's identity is tied up in their work. Will people be able to find purpose and meaning in life, or will having that idle time create anxiety and loss of purpose and identity? Will people lose motivation and direction? I think part of what makes the human experience great is the challenge of like working toward a goal and accomplishing that goal. And when we lose that challenge, how do we fill that space? Hopefully we can do that in a positive way. But I guess just, what is it to be human in a post-work world? I think it could be pretty dang sweet, personally, but you just have to wonder what that actually looks like. I think the thing that we struggle with most is just the uncertainty about what's coming, because humans hate the unknown. Like, uncertainty equals anxiety. I think most people, whether they admit it or not, I think subconsciously, I think people would rather know about bad news than to not know what's going to happen. I think people would rather have knowledge of something bad than not know with the potential of something good. So I think this uncertainty is causing, people who are thinking about it, maybe a little bit of anxiety. And I think as the world really starts changing, I think we're at the top of the roller coaster right now. And we can see as we're cresting the top that it's about to get crazy, but we haven't gotten there yet. And it's going to go fast, and we're going to experience a lot of G forces, and like, we don't know what it's going to be like. So it's like the fear, it's that fear at the top of the roller coaster. But once the ride starts, hopefully it's fun, but it's the unknown before the chaos that is hard to deal with. And I think humans have always struggled with that. We've always thought the world was ending. You think back to, like I was saying at the beginning, like back to any major technological advance, like people have always said it was going to be the end, that it was going to end the world. And the cool thing about humans is that we've always adapted and we've always survived. And generally, if you look at life zoomed out in the grand scheme of time, life has continuously gotten better, I think. I think the quality of life has definitely improved over time. I know people are really stressed and anxious, and like there's a lot of stress and turmoil in the world still, but I think life and humanity is better now than it has ever been in the past. And it's easy to look back and say, like, and romanticize, like, oh, it was so much better back then. But at the end of the day, like, we live more comfortable lives with more abundance and quality of life than ever before. So is this just another cycle of fear followed by improved quality of life? I've been working with 805 beer for close to a decade now, and to me, it's much more than just a beer. I feel like they represent a way of living. 805 was born on California's Central Coast, where life moves to the rhythm of surf, motorcycles, music, and the outdoors. Whether you're coming off a ride, hanging out with friends, or watching the sunset at the end of an awesome day, 805 is right there with you. What I respect most is their commitment to sustainability. This is their home, and they treat it that way. Conserving water, reducing waste, and constantly thinking about how to do things better for the future. They support the athletes, the events, and the culture that we all care about. But more than anything, they support a lifestyle that's real. That's why 805 has been a staple in my life for so long. I've also been thinking about how the motorcycle plays into all of this because that's the world that I live in. It's how I grew up. It's how I've lived my life, and bikes have really been the anchor to everything else that I've done. So I'm thinking like, what does this mean for motorcycling in the future? And I think a common thread as I've been talking through these thoughts is that like it's so important for us to remember what it means to be human and to be present and aware. And I think I think motorcycling, I think it could be one of the last fully human experiences because it requires full presence, full awareness, and skill and risk. I think I think this is going to be a place in a world that is completely optimized and efficient and safe and tech driven, and we live in this world that's competing for our attention. The motorcycle is like one place where we can just tune all of that out and just exist in the present moment and be fully aware and just feel human. I think we're over designing bikes now, and it's I think that's why a lot of people are really drawn to vintage bikes and older bikes because like the modern technology is kind of annoying in a lot of cases. Like all the traction control and ABS and features that these bikes have actually like make it more unsafe if you know how to ride. Like it actually limits you. But I don't know. I just think like sometimes these bike manufacturers are like losing the essence of like what it actually means to ride a motorcycle, and you're just creating something that's like so automated and computerized and like high tech that it's not even really going to be the same thing if we keep going down that road. So I don't know, just my take. And another thing I was thinking of is like, will motorcycling become irrelevant, like so many other activities in the past that are no longer really relevant as time and culture and technology has evolved. Like, motorcycling has been around a little bit over 100 years, 120 years. Like, could it just be seen as this like primitive activity that people used to do by future generations? And like if say these technological breakthroughs happen with medicine and we can reverse aging and extend lifespan by 100, 200 years, does riding become too risky? Like currently we live in this very finite existence, and it's almost like people have this mindset of YOLO, you only live once, and taking risk and making the most of life and getting that thrill. But does it become reckless to gamble your health and safety when hundreds of years of life and experience are at stake? Does it become stupid to ride a motorcycle when you could be robbing yourself of like hundreds of years of experience? I don't know. Just things that I've been like thinking about. Obviously, I love riding and I don't think I would ever stop, but it's like, what does taking risk mean? What does it mean to be like Travis Pastrana when you could live to be 300 years old? Like, are you still gonna like be doing triple backflips and jumping off buildings? I don't know. But I do know that like the experience of riding and the presence of mind and that flow state that we talk about so much on this podcast that keeps people coming back to more, that keeps us grounded, that keeps us, addicted to riding because it makes us feel present and alive and human. I have a positive feeling about the future of motorcycling. So as we think about the future, to wrap things up, I think the main theme here, as I've talked through these thoughts, is that we have this infinite upside that could happen and this infinite downside that could happen. There could be a utopia of human flourishing or existential risk that ends everything as we know it. That's either a dystopian future or the end of humanity in general. And we're really rolling the dice between these two things. So as we wait to see how these things unfold in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years, I think it's just important to remember to ask yourself, like, what does it mean to be human? To use these tools, but don't forget who you are, what's important. My hope is that these tools will just create more space for us to live the lives we want, to handle the tasks and obligations holding us back from, the true enjoyment of life, and maybe helping us escape this imprisonment of the rat race, and freeing us up to just feel more human, and giving us the space to pursue things that are actually meaningful to us rather than just fighting for survival every day. So be open to the unknown. Try your best not to be anxious. Try your best to be optimistic. Embrace the technology as a way of understanding and improving your life. I think it's going to take focus to make it through the other side, and focus and awareness. And I think, much like that experience of riding, just enjoy the ride, for what it is. And whether this thing goes good or goes bad, it's surely going to be entertaining. And I think one thing is guaranteed, that it's going to be one hell of a ride.